Welcome to Friday Night Chats with Garage Geek or Garage Beast, and welcome my Garage Army. I hope everyone had a nice week. My week was a little bit stressful, and I actually didn't make any videos this week. It was just a stressful week. I won't go into why, but it was, and it is what it is. So I actually didn't have much time or energy to make videos, but I'm here today and I'm going to go ahead and share what I got. First, I want to say is that my package from Josh Keach came in, but I haven't had time to listen to it, so I bought both of his albums from Bandcamp. Like I said, I haven't really gone through it yet. I'm definitely going to be listening to these on repeat, but here's his Part 1 album and Part 2. I have the CD here. So yeah, Part 1 and Part 2. So yeah, I'm really looking forward to listening to those this weekend. So thank you, Josh Keach. I'm really happy to get your work, like I said. All right, I'm pushing that back into it, and it came in this little envelope. So nice. I bought some stuff. Let me go ahead and start with some books. So Gore Vidal is a YouTuber that I follow, and he also comments a lot on my videos. And so I was watching one of his recent videos, and he was comparing St. Augustine's Confessions to, I believe, a Daredevil comic. And I love how he puts these disparate elements together, and he makes it work. But in any event, I thought to myself, wow, I've never read the Confessions. So I went ahead and I ordered a copy, and I actually can't wait to read this. I'm going to just read you the first sentence from the introduction because it just kind of like really draws you in. The life of St. Augustine has a special appeal because he was a great sinner who became a great saint, and greatness is all the more admirable if it is achieved against odds. What a great line for the introduction. So I'm looking forward to reading that. I ordered that one through Amazon. I bought this one last week at my local bookstore, but I forgot to show it. So I studied him in my Italian literature classes, Dino Buzzati, and this one is The Stronghold, and this is from the New York Review of Books. I'm looking forward to jumping into that, and especially because it's short. And I got my copy of The Amazing Mrs. Cadabra, and that's from Ricky Malo, and he's basically all sorts of words. That's his nom de plume, or his YouTube handle. And I am not very far. I'm going to be reading this a lot this weekend, but I'm very surprised at how good this is. I mean, no offense, Ricky Malo, but I mean, I thought, I didn't know what to expect, but man, I'm really enjoying this. So, hats off to you. He's working on his second novel, and if you haven't checked out his videos, his channel is a lot of fun. And he just gave me a challenge, which I also need to work on. And Doug Anderson also gave me a challenge. Just this week, I haven't been doing much on YouTube, and I need to jump back in. Okay, so those are some books. I want to show you some things that I want. Now, I'm going to tell you, this is like a really sad story. I've been telling everyone how I'm pretty much an addict on whatnot, and it's worse. It's so bad right now. I'm not going to tell you how bad it is, but let's just think of like a gambling addiction, and it's kind of like that. I don't know what I'm going to do. Like, I'm in trouble. And I'm still going on every day. I can't make myself stop. It's like so addictive. So I don't know what I'm going to do. But in the spirit of YouTube, I'm going to go ahead and show off some of the stuff I have. I can't show you everything because it's like, my goodness. But I'm going to show you some of the stuff I got. Just, hey, let's at least get something positive out of this. Look at this cool, sticker. Alfred E. Newman for president. Vote mad. Pretty funny. I got this. I like the cover a lot. He's a famous cartoonist. What did he do? His name is Bumbeck, but didn't he do... No, Gru was Sergio Aragones. This guy did a really famous comic strip, and I can't remember what it is right now. Anyways, I thought that was a cool cover, and supposedly it has the first appearance of John Constantine in this DC sampler. Yeah. And it's like, what, running for 20 bucks? I got all these things for like $1. I got this really cool 12-cent DC series called Swing with Scooter. I mean, look at these comics. They were 12 cents, and if you can see the condition they're in, they're gorgeous. So I basically got... I say the word basically a lot. Sorry. I got these comics. They were numbers 2 through 7, and the conditions are great. And I got them. There are 5 of them, and they're 12-cent comics. And I think I got them for either $4 or $6, if you can believe that. And I mean, they're gorgeous. The condition is great. Now, the one drawback is it didn't have issue number 1, so I need to hunt that one down. I got this supremely weird... Like, it was part of a lot. I just, like, won it. This supremely weird Italian, like, what am I going to do with this Italian science fiction, like, magazine? But it's so cool. Now, what's really weird is, like, the art on every page bleeds through. Yeah, and it's all tearing apart. Like, look, you can totally see the art bleeding through. It's all in pieces. It's coming apart. I mean, and the art is just weird. It's quirky. It's almost black and white. I don't know what you would call that. Like, it's just got like one extra color, like that. But it was such a weird thing that I'm actually happy to have it. It's just this cool magazine. Next, I got this 10-cent Donald Duck for something ridiculously cheap, like $2, maybe $3. Now, it's a little bit racially insensitive, but you can't hide that with old comics. But yeah, it's not in the best shape, but it's a 10-cent Donald Duck. Yeah, there you can see the price, 10 cents. Wow. I got this weird Scooby-Doo comic that came, I guess it originally came in the New York Post, and Macy's sponsored it. Just this weird, like, my husband loves Scooby-Doo, so I got that one for him. I'm a fan of Barry Windsor Smith. His art is just weird and quirky, and I remember this series. Unfortunately, I don't have any of them, but I have this one. But I think I'm going to be gifting this to Sleepy Reader 666, because he's actually, when I send him a picture of this, he's like, oh, I don't have that one, so that's okay. You're going to have it soon. I got this beautiful Turok Son of Stone. I love these painted covers. I don't collect these, but I just thought they were the seller was selling a bunch of Beavis and Butthead, but I bid on this one just because I thought this cover was hysterical. Like, I don't know like what the goal is, but they're basically, looking at, women underwater. But what's the point of being Jaws? To scare them to get out of the water? No, somebody explain that. I get that they're under the water looking up, and it's like Jaws, but what's the point of actually swimming with the fin? Because that would, like, scare the women off. Somebody in the comment, like, how does that fit together? Explain it to me, because I feel stupid. And then, look at that crazy Ren and Stimpy cover. Look, I love that art. And I was able to get, John Byrne is one of my favorite artists, and I got this awesome John Byrne cover. John Byrne for me is like this great artist that I grew up with. But I don't know, if you don't know much about comics, what do you think about that art? Like, be honest. Is that nice art for you or not? Because for me, like, John Byrne is in my brain. I grew up with him. I love his art. But I'm wondering what people who aren't familiar with John Byrne's art, what would you say about that? Is it just an okay cover? For me, that like jumps out like, wow, that's just such cool art. I got two very crisp. Look, I know they're 30 centers and 35, but look how crisp they are. Look at and those colors. I just love these. And okay, this one is so weird. Okay, look, first of all, look at this girl. She's like, and then they've got this demon tied up to the bed, like, and he says, I'm his exorcist. It seems he's been possessed by a human. And there's this other. So weird. I don't know about Charlton. I've got to read this to see how it is. That's pretty funny. Now, I'm going to stop with a comic book that is just all kinds of crazy. Now, I read this as a kid, and this is a mainstream Marvel comic. It's the Avengers number 200. If you know comics, you know what I'm about to talk about, but this is like so controversial. First off, let's look at that George Perez and Austin artwork. Oh, gosh, look at that. Gorgeous, gorgeous cover. I just love Perez artwork. Now, I don't know if it happened in this issue. Like, I didn't reread this. I just got in the mail. But imagine reading this as a kid. Okay, so Miss Marvel falls in love with this interdimensional being, and she agrees to go off with him to his dimension. Now, in this issue, I don't know if that happens in this issue, but in this issue, she comes back. And she's pregnant, and she says, I believe she's pregnant, and she tells them that he was manipulating my mind and he was tricking all of you, and you just let him take me away, and he repeatedly raped me over years, and now I'm back and I'm pregnant. Can you believe that was in this mainstream Marvel comic? And that's why it's so controversial. And I read that as a kid. I was just like, whoa. I remember talking about that with people. It was just so crazy. So do any of you remember this? Did you read that? And if you don't know comics, remember this is in the 80s. That kind of wild trippiness happened in a comic. So it's just insane what they did in some comics back in the day. Oh, some of the comic orders I got, they came with these random baseball cards, and I was opening it while my daughter was there, and I was like, okay, I got some baseball cards. I hate baseball, but oh well. And I was reading the names, and she's like, oh, I know Shohei Ohtani. And I was like, okay, do you want the card? And she's like, no. What am I gonna do with it? So I got all these like random baseball cards. Pretty funny. And then I got this one, and it was even in this like thing, like a protector sleeve, like, you know, a Sears protector sleeve. And it's Massachusetts statesman Henry Cabot Lodge, Republican. And I was just like, why? How random, which is the whole point, right? In a group of comics, I got this like random card, and I totally want this series. I think it's something, I can't read it. It's so tiny. It says something Heritage. Topps Heritage, I think. I want to hunt down this set because that's just crazy. Love it. All right. So that leads us to movies. Yeah, movies and books. Right, so let's go ahead and talk about some of them. Now, I've got some really weird things to talk about tonight in some of these movies. Like recently, I've been, going on and on about some really good movies. I watched some stinkers this week, like stinkers. I'm gonna go over that. Let me go to my photos. Photos. Here we go. Sorry, everybody. Oh, first off, Criterion is releasing this. So this is Orson Welles' The Trial, based on the Kafka. And when I saw that art, I was like, wow, that is so trippy. I want that art. I want to own the case of that just for that art. And I do enjoy Orson Welles movies. Okay. I kind of don't want to talk about that yet. Well, let me go ahead and talk about it. So A book that I read, listened to actually, is Legends and Lattes. Now, this is something I would never in my life pick up and read, but it's on the Hugo nominated list. And Sleepy Reader 666 and I are reading, trying to read them all. And so I went ahead and listened to it, and both of us are going to have a book talk discussion. So if you're interested in that, I'll try to leave a link below, but this is going to be posted, and then we won't do our book talk till sometime later in the weekend. So I'll go back when it's ready and link it here. So I don't want to talk about that too much here. And then another book that I listened to was this. Now, this book was recommended by All Sorts of Words. And the one really bad thing was that he spoiled the hell out of this book. Like, he told everything in the plot, which I absolutely hate. All Sorts of Words. So I think that kind of ruined my my listening experience with this book, because I knew all of the plot twists. I am going to say, and I think that kind of made me not enjoy the second half of this book as much as I might have. However, I'm going to say that I did enjoy the writing style for the most part, because the writer had a real immediacy in the way that he wrote. He would often use second person, so he would switch back and forth. And I am going to say that some parts of this book, especially there's a villain. The villain was right out of a Stephen King novel, and I know Stephen King would have written that character 10 times better. However, I ended up enjoying this book. Like I said, I wasn't very satisfied with the ending, but the first half of this is a pretty wild ride, and I just think more could have been done with it by the end, and also a lot of it was spoiled for me. All Sorts of Words. But anyways, I'm glad that you recommended it, and I'm glad that I listened to it. And it also won the Bram Stoker Award. Interesting. So I think those were the two movies that, those are the two books that I got through this week. Let's go ahead and talk about some movies. Now, the first movie we watched, my husband picked, and this one was called Cassandro, and it's about, they call them exoticos. They're basically the what do they call the people in the masks? The Mexican, oh my gosh. The Mexican wrestlers who wear the masks. Shoot. Anyways, this is a sub genre of those fighters. They're called exoticos, and they weren't taken seriously until wrestlers like this person named Cassandro pushed boundaries. And so this movie is by no means perfect, but I did enjoy the performance. I did enjoy the story. It's going to be one of those stories, where, someone's struggling against adversity, and and it's a real story. I'm going to say that I enjoyed it for what it was. I'm not going to say that I wholeheartedly recommend this movie, but I really, really enjoyed it. So I would say at least like a 3.5 or 4. The Luchadors. That's what they're called. The Luchadors. Okay. Now, we're going to come to this movie. Skinamarink. It should be called Stinkamarink. This movie was horrible. This movie has... Okay, so I didn't know this. I was on a website, and they were recommending, the 10 best horror movies on Hulu, whatever. Most of them I've seen. If there's any new ones, I always put them in lists. Make sure to try to watch them. And they recommended this one. Great. Started watching it, and I couldn't believe what I was watching. After about 20 minutes, my husband was so disgusted. He was like, no, we can't. And I was like, you know what? I agree with you 100%. Stopped watching it. The next night, I went ahead and watched more. I got through half of it. And I was really, really trying to stick it out. But, man, I couldn't take any more. I might watch some more. I'm gonna talk about this movie a little bit because it's so bad, but there's something to it. And it's like this internet sensation. I looked it up afterwards. There was this a copy was leaked, and it's being hailed as one of the scariest movies ever made. And I'm gonna talk about that a little bit. I'm gonna spoil it because after the first 5 minutes, nothing new happens. Basically, these two there, I said the word basically again. Everybody take a shot every time I say the word basically. These two really young kids are in a house and their parents disappear and all the doors and the windows vanish. And and it's like, okay, that sounds really scary, right? I really wanted to watch it. Oh my God. They take something so scary and make it so boring. Now, if you go online and you start watching YouTube videos, you are going to see people divided about this movie. Some people they're like hailing it. They're like, wow, this is the best, scariest movie ever. They are full of it. And then you're going to have other people like me who are like, this movie is the biggest piece of trash ever. Now, if you're like me, I love when a movie divides an audience, and I want to get to the heart of it. So I'm going to say this. If this were a 10-minute short, this would be very, very effective. But this thing runs, I think, an hour and 45 minutes or maybe even 2 hours. And basically, it's weird camera angles. You never see the kids' faces. You're always looking up into a corner of a room or down at the carpet. And the film is super grainy. And so it's like turning on a VHS movie at 3 a.m. And one person said, hey, if you were watching TV at 3 a.m. and you were channel surfing and you came across this movie and it was pitch black, this would be a freaky movie. You'd be like, what is this and what's going on? Because it's just all these weird camera angles and they're using all these old cartoons that are in the public domain. And, because of the situation, like the cartoons take on this sinister air and the special effects are really hokey. But it's very, very impressionistic. Now, I can totally appreciate that. In 5 or 10 minute chunks, this movie is very effective. You're just sitting there and you just have to let it wash over you. And you just sit back and you just kind of get involved in the graininess of the film and the situation, and it could be effective, but it goes on and on and on, and you just want it to be over. You're not scared anymore. You're bored. Now, some people online are saying this taps into people's fears of waking up, like a child waking up in the middle of the night and thinking that their parents are gone, and that sense of fright. But the thing is, that sense doesn't last a long time, but this movie does. This movie, I really, really want to know if any of you have watched this movie. What do you think of it? Because, man, it's a turkey in my book, unless you watch it for 5 minutes. And I think it can be highly effective. Skinamarink. Bad. All right, the next one I'm going to talk about was also, after Skinamarink, this movie was recommended, so I put it on and we watched it about 20 minutes. My husband was again like, what is going on? This movie's so boring. So, it's called El Conde. Which I think translates as Count. If you notice this bat is in the shape of like a government official's hat, right? And so this is basically about a dictator who is secretly a vampire, and he's in exile, and he's married, and all of his children They're basically vampires too. You know, they're trying to find his money. And what I'm going to say is that this movie is shot in black and white, and it's got some interesting ideas, and it's got some beautiful visuals, but it goes on way too long. Like I said, the story can be interesting, but if this were a 45-minute episode of a TV show, would have been way better. I'm going to give you an example of a visual. Like look at that. That visual is gorgeous, right? And the way it was shot in black and white. So I would say that I can't recommend this movie at all. I would say this is a 2 to 2.5 stars out of 5. It's just boring, but there's some very interesting things to it. So my husband didn't want to watch it. I went back and I finished it because I was kind of interested, and but I was bored throughout most of the movie. But there were these, parts and images and kind of the situations, and the fact that his children, even though they weren't like literal vampires, they felt, like metaphorical ones. They were just, trying to suck him dry of all his money. And then this count was a dictator. And, oh, sorry, I believe he was based on a real Chilean dictator. And that was interesting, right? Because, he was sucking his people dry and killing, people left and right. And then we have another interesting figure that turns up later in the movie, although that person is kind of narrating many parts of the movie. Like I said, the ideas were there. It was really interesting. I can't recommend it. Can't recommend it. Here's another pretty bad movie that we watched. It was called The Offering. Now, the reason I can't really recommend this movie is it's just so run-of-the-mill. It's like everything that happens, it's nothing new. It's just the same old story. But what I will say is it did give a glimpse into, I believe they're called Hasidic Jews, right? And that aspect of this movie was very interesting. But otherwise, it was just run-of-the-mill. So again, I would say that would be a 2.5 to 3 stars. I can't recommend it. And the final movie we watched, I got some really bad movies this week, The Little Mermaid. Now, I'm actually not going to say that this was a bad movie. I really enjoyed it. But what I don't understand is, I remember when this came out, everyone was saying it was horrible and they were panning it. And I don't understand that. So it's a live action version of Little Mermaid. Going into it, it's going to be a live action version of a cartoon musical. Like, what do you expect? But it was really well done. The singing was great. They added some new twists to the familiar songs, which was pleasing. The actress, if she's singing that part, her voice is phenomenal. The extra songs that are in it were written by Lin-Manuel Miranda. Sorry, I'm not sure if that's his name. But, the very super famous, now he's an actor. He was in, he became most famous for the musical Hamilton. Yeah, and I even saw that one, Hamilton. But he has, tons of movies that he's written lyrics for. So he added more songs and added more lyrics to the songs that were already in The Little Mermaid. I especially loved Ursula, Melissa McCarthy. I thought she was fabulous. Now, it was really, really difficult for me because Ursula in the animated version and that the actress's voice who does her is fabulous. But I think Melissa McCarthy held her own, and if it was hard for me to divorce that. I had to look at this as her doing her own role, right? And once I was able to do that, it clicked. I thought she was so good in this role. I did it. There was some wonky CGI at the end, and I didn't like that with her character. But up until that part, she's good as this evil, wicked sea witch. Loved it. So, if anybody knows, why was this movie panned? For a live action movie, I thought it was highly entertaining from beginning to end. I don't know. I don't understand it. And that was it. I'm at 29 minutes and 50 seconds. So I'm just going to be right around 30 minutes. Again, I appreciate everybody. I'm going to try to jump into more videos this week. Please be on the lookout for my book talk with Sleepy Reader. And I already did one with him, but it's on his channel. And we reviewed the first book that we read from the Hugo Award nominees. And what book was that? Already I'm forgetting. Holy moly, where is my memory? What book did we read? It was the Daughter of Dr. Moreau, right? And then we also had a book talk about the Island of Dr. Moreau. So this is the second one that we're going to be discussing. We're trying to go through all the Hugo nominees for this year. And if you haven't seen it already, he interviewed me, and that's also on his channel. But yeah, I want to thank everybody. Please comments. I want to know what you think about, especially if you've seen Skinamarink. I really want to know what you think. But I want everyone to have a great weekend. And as always, I want to thank everybody for the support.